she said. "My ex will stay at our place for a few days. If you feel uncomfortable, you can leave." I just smiled and replied, "Got it." Then I called her parents to my place and prepared a surprise for them. 30 minutes later, the police suddenly showed up at my door. "David's coming from London. He'll stay here a few days," she said. "If you're not comfortable, you can stay at a hotel. I'm Daniel. This is my home." Every piece of furniture in that apartment was bought with my money, but she said it like I was the guest. I looked at her for a moment. Not angry or surprised, just finished with the whole situation. "Got it. Do whatever you need," I said. She blinked, clearly confused. She probably expected me to argue or react, but she had no idea that I'd already heard her entire plan 3 days earlier through the front door. I overheard part of their conversation through the door and began to understand what might be coming. So when I grabbed my backpack and walked out, she thought I was leaving to cool off. I was leaving to prepare for what I needed to do. And she definitely didn't expect who I called next. "I'm Daniel. I work as an architect. I like order and quiet. My apartment reflects that, simple, stable mine." Sophia moved in later. She brought a different kind of energy. Loud, emotional, always jumping from one thing to another. Her ex, David, was even worse. Their relationship was a mess, the type people brag about because it felt intense, even though it was mostly fighting and making up 1,000 times. She called it passion. I called it unnecessary stress, but I stayed out of it. I figured everyone has a past. 3 days before everything blew up, I came home earlier than usual. I had bought her some pastries from a place she liked. Nothing major, just something small to brighten the evening. When I reached the door, I heard her talking. At first, I thought she was on a video call with a friend. I heard her on speakerphone saying something to David. "Just come over, it's fine," she said. "Daniel won't make it a problem, he's easygoing." That made me stop. I leaned in slightly, and that's when I realized the phone was on speaker. The man on the other end, David, sounded amused. "Easygoing or just spineless?" he said. I figured he'd at least ask questions, if he knew we used to be glued to each other. Sophia laughed quietly. "He won't. He avoids conflict. If something makes him uncomfortable, he usually just removes himself. Saves us money, too. You don't have to book a hotel." Hearing that felt strange. Not painful, just eye-opening, like realizing you've been solving a puzzle without noticing half the pieces were missing. David kept going. "So you're basically letting me stay there for free. Nice upgrade." Sophia replied without hesitation. "Use it while you can. I'm getting tired of him anyway. All that polite, stable stuff gets old. I'll end things soon, but I need to pick the right time." At that moment, I understood exactly where I stood in her life. A placeholder until she figured out her next move. She wasn't confused. She wasn't unsure about us. She was simply planning how to exit smoothly. I didn't walk in or knock. I paused for a moment, then quietly left for the elevator, trying to process what I had just heard. That night, I stayed in my office thinking through the situation and the best way to handle it quietly. She assumed my silence meant weakness. That assumption became the key to handling the situation. The next morning, I went home like nothing happened. She was eating breakfast, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look guilty or nervous, just normal. That told me everything. She didn't think she needed to hide anything, because in her mind, she had me figured out. From then on, I noticed how casually she talked about David and hinted at his visit, trying to make it seem normal. I didn't confront her. I didn't hint that I knew. I just listened carefully. Whenever she mentioned David again, I kept my responses short and neutral. She seemed relieved every time I didn't push back. While she relaxed, I started preparing. I checked the apartment rules and backed up messages, just to be prepared not to attack her. Over the next 3 days, I noticed Sophia becoming more confident, almost careless. She talked to David a lot. Sometimes she didn't even lower her voice. The more she assumed I was oblivious, the bolder she became. That only made things easier for me. And then came the moment I had been waiting for. She stood in the kitchen, holding a glass of water, and said it as if it were the most reasonable suggestion in the world. "David's coming from London. He'll stay here a few days." Then she added the part that revealed everything. "If you're uncomfortable, you can go stay at a hotel." I looked at her calmly. And in that short silence, I realized she wasn't asking. She was expecting compliance. so I told her exactly what she wanted to hear. Sure, do whatever you need. She nodded, relieved. She didn't understand that this time I meant it in a completely different way. Once Sophia made that announcement, everything I had prepared finally had a place to land. She genuinely thought I would step aside, disappear for a few days, and leave my own home so she and her ex could reconnect. That confidence made her predictable. I didn't ask when David was arriving. She wouldn't have answered honestly anyway. Instead, I watched her behavior. She tidied the living room, set out snacks, and lit a candle. Her casualness confirmed she assumed full control. I checked the cameras to confirm when he entered. Since I hadn't invited him, he wasn't authorized to stay. Second, I made a few calls, quietly from outside the building. The first call was to her parents. I kept the tone calm, nothing accusatory. "Hi, Uncle, Aunt. Sorry for bothering you," I said. "I might be wrong, but when I got home earlier, I heard a man's voice inside. It didn't sound like a friend. I'm not sure if Sophia is safe, so I wanted to check." Her mom immediately panicked. Her dad asked 3 questions in a row. I simply repeated that I wasn't certain, but I didn't want to walk in alone. That was enough. They said they would come right away. The second call was to the police non-emergency line. "Hello, I'm the property owner," I explained. "There might be an individual inside who I didn't authorize to enter. I'm outside the building right now. I'd appreciate officers coming to verify the situation." I waited in the lobby while Sophia thought I had gone out. When her parents arrived, they looked worried. I just said, "I haven't gone in yet. I didn't want to make assumptions." That was enough to get them into the elevator with me. As we went up, I could see her mother clutching her bag tightly, breathing fast. Her father kept asking, "Are you sure you heard something?" I kept replying, "I might be wrong. Let's just take a look together." When we reached the door, I paused for a moment, not for suspense, but because I wanted everything to be clear. I unlocked the door slowly, then pushed it open. They were still near the sofa, talking quietly. When they saw me, Sophia froze and David shifted uncomfortably. "What? She said I could come in," he snapped, like he owned the place. Sophia jumped off the sofa. "Daniel, what are you doing here? You said you'd go stay somewhere else." Her mother's eyes bulged. "Stay somewhere else? Why would he leave his own home, Sophia?" Sophia opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Then came the knock on the door. 2 officers stood there. I stepped aside politely. "Thanks for coming. This is my apartment. I didn't give him permission to enter or stay here." David shot up, shocked. "Hey man, she invited me. She lives here too." I replied calmly, "She lives here as my partner, not as a co-owner. She doesn't have the legal authority to invite someone for an overnight stay without my consent." One of the officers turned to Sophia. "Ma'am, did you inform him before bringing your guest here?" She stuttered. I didn't think, he's overreacting." Her dad yelled, "Overreacting? You brought another man into your boyfriend's home and told him to leave?" David stood there, embarrassed and angry, but his attitude didn't help. The officers asked him to step into the hallway while they clarified the situation. Sophia's mother was crying. Her father kept shaking his head, repeating, "I can't believe this." Sophia kept pointing at me like I had betrayed her. "You set me up. You planned this." I looked at her and said, "You're confused. I didn't plan anything. I just stopped covering for you." When the officers confirmed that David had to leave immediately, he tried to argue, but they shut it down. They escorted him out of the building, and he sent Sophia one last glare before disappearing behind the elevator doors. As soon as the apartment went quiet, the weight of reality finally hit her. She tried to blame me again, tried to spin it, tried to cry. Nothing worked. Her parents told her to pack her things. Her mum couldn't even look at her. Her dad apologized to me on the way out, and for the first time in a while the apartment felt like mine again. After David got escorted out, you'd think the chaos was over. But the truth is that was just the surface layer. The real twist started once the officers stepped into the apartment to finish their report. They asked a few standard questions, wrote things down, and reminded Sophia's parents that David shouldn't return without my permission. When the officers finally left, the apartment went silent in a way that felt heavy. You could almost hear the embarrassment hanging in the air. Sophia's mum kept wiping her eyes. Her dad stood with his arms crossed, staring at the floor like he was trying to calm himself. And Sophia? She looked completely lost, like she couldn't process what just happened. But I didn't say much. I didn't need to. Her dad was the one who broke the silence. "Start packing," he said. "We're not staying another minute in this mess." Sophia grabbed his arm. "Dad, please, listen, this isn't what it looks like." He pulled his arm back. "It looks exactly like what it is. You invited another man into your partner's house. What more do you want us to see?" She turned to me like I was supposed to save her from her own parents. "Daniel, tell them. You're twisting things." "No," I said. "I didn't twist anything. You made your choices. They just saw it with their own eyes." She went quiet for a moment, swallowing hard. Her parents started walking toward her room to help her gather her things. I followed at a distance, not to kick her out, but to make sure nothing else happened. That's when the actual twist fell into place. As her parents were in the bedroom, I walked to the balcony to get some air. From there you can see the front door of the building. And just in time, I watched David sneak back inside the lobby, moving fast, like he was trying to beat someone to the punch. My first thought was, is he serious? He's coming back. Then it clicked. Sophia must have messaged him while we were dealing with her parents. Maybe she wanted him to explain, or maybe he decided he wasn't going to let things end like that. Knowing their personality types, either option made sense. I turned back inside. "Her ex is coming back up," I said calmly. Her dad looked at me. "You're joking." "No, he just walked into the lobby." Sophia froze. She knew exactly what that meant. She sprinted to her phone, frantically unlocking it. "No, no, no, he's not supposed to." But it was too late. A loud pounding hit the apartment door. "Open up," David shouted. "I'm not leaving until we talk." Her dad yelled, "This boy is insane." Sophia panicked. "Dad, please stop, let me handle it." Her mother grabbed her sleeve. "Handle what? He's acting like a criminal." I stepped aside and pointed at the door. "He's your guest, not mine." She glared at me but didn't say anything. Because the police had just filed a report, David returning counted as re-entry after being explicitly told to leave. Which meant the next knock wasn't from him. It was from the officers who had literally just left. They came back up because the lobby security called them. They'd recognized David's face from 15 minutes earlier. The timing was perfect in a way I couldn't have planned. They asked him to step out into the hallway, and this time he didn't cooperate. He started raising his voice, arguing that he was invited, that he had unfinished business. Sophia kept begging him to stop, her father yelling at him to get lost, her mother crying again. It spiraled fast. David grabbed the doorframe, shouting, "Sophia, tell them I'm supposed to be here." She tried to speak, but the officers cut her off. "Ma'am, we need you to stay back." "Sir, remove your hands from the doorframe." He didn't listen. A few minutes later, the officers returned and took David into custody. The officers arrived, read David his rights and took him into custody. Sophia and her parents were left in shock. When they dragged him down the hallway, he looked at me like I personally ruined his life. I didn't say a word. Once the door shut, everything collapsed for Sophia. She slid down the wall, crying into her hands. Her mom and dad didn't comfort her. They didn't even touch her. They just kept packing in silence. I didn't go near her. I wasn't going to be the shoulder she cried on because her plan backfired. After 10 minutes, her dad came out with 2 bags and said, "We're done, let's go." Sophia walked toward the door with this mix of anger, shame, and disbelief. Before leaving, she looked back at me, eyes red, voice shaking. "You destroyed everything," she said. I answered, "No, you invited everything that destroyed you." She didn't respond. Her parents guided her out, and the door closed behind them with a final solid click. The apartment felt quiet again, but this time the quiet didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. The real twist was much simpler. For the first time since we started dating, I was no longer the one trying to hold things together. She lost control of the situation the second she underestimated me. After they left, I stayed in the living room for a while, letting the quiet settle. The apartment felt different. I gathered her things into a storage box by the door. The apartment felt quiet, finally mine again. That night, I slept better than I expected. I woke up earlier than usual, made coffee, and realized how peaceful the apartment felt when someone wasn't poking at my patience every hour. A few days passed without any contact. Her parents sent someone to collect the boxes. They apologized again, though I told them they didn't need to. What happened wasn't their fault. They raised her, yes, but they weren't the ones making choices for her. Sophia did message me eventually. 5 long paragraphs about misunderstanding, stress, needing space, asking for another chance, saying what we had was worth saving. She even added a final line saying, "I know you still love me." I didn't reply immediately. I felt there wasn't much left to discuss and time would tell if anything needed fixing. There wasn't anything to fix. She made decisions that had nothing to do with me and I had no reason to re-enter that loop. Life went on. Work got busier. I met clients, visited construction sites, spent late nights drafting plans. And weirdly enough, the apartment never felt empty. It felt normal, like it had returned to its original setting. A few months later, a friend introduced me to someone named Anna. She wasn't loud. She didn't try to impress anyone. She didn't play mind games. We talked like two people who didn't need to perform. Our first conversation was simple, about coffee and work. She listened and didn't bring up my past relationship. We kept seeing each other. One afternoon, she came over to help me redecorate the living room. We moved the sofa, changed curtains, replaced a few old things. She chose a spot for a lamp, and I smiled. The apartment finally felt right. Anna turned around and asked, "What's that smile for?" I shrugged. "I guess it finally feels like a home again." She laughed and kept arranging things. For the first time in a long while, I felt exactly where I needed to be.